All right, family. So in this video, we're going to talk about misinformation in trucking and who's putting out the misinformation. I got a viewer that asked a question that I think is a very good question that I wanted to address on video because it deals with a pretty big something that's pretty big in the trucking community. As far as online videos and as far as online content, all right? So let's get right into it. I'm gonna read the viewer's comment and then I'm gonna give my perspective. Shout out to Jesse Barrios. This is a great question. That's the reason why I wanted to make a video on it, because I think it's something that needs to be addressed publicly. So Jesse asks a question, and I'm just gonna read his whole comment. He says, as someone who just got their permit and is about to enter truck driving school, I appreciate the insight. He's talking about the video of mine that he's commenting on. He says, one funny thing I did notice, and I'm glad it's been brought up here, is that there is an alarming amount of false or misinformation online, be it videos, ads, or articles that try to scare upcoming drivers away from paying for their own tuition because they will not be hired with no on-the-road experience. Here's my question. Do you think that this is just a wide misconception, or is it possible the misinformation is something that large trucking companies are tactfully putting out to try and recruit drivers with paid training to lock them in an OTR contract for a year or two? Or is a combination of both? Because it seems these large companies will still hire you either route you take. But it seems they definitely prefer to entice you with free training and lock you in a OTR contract. So there's a lot to unpack there, Jesse. Again, I appreciate your comment. And there's some things that I want to zero in on specifically in regards to what you're asking. First thing is, you absolutely can get hired without any on-the-road experience, okay? You do not need to sign a contract with a company and lock yourself into employment with that company for however long, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is they require. You don't need to go that path. Now, some people will probably feel differently about that. I'm proof. Right. So, you know, like I'm the perfect guy to ask this. I paid for my own CDL school tuition, and I was working right out of school. Now, people that follow my content, you already know my first job was working with my pop. But it's not just me, Jesse. Everybody that I know that drives a truck in the real world, not online, nobody signs a contract with a company. Nobody looks at going to quote unquote free CDL training and having to obligate themselves to a company. I don't know anybody personally that has started trucking that way. I know there's a lot of people that do that, but nobody that I know in my own life goes that way. They all do the same thing. We go to CDL school, we pay for it out of pocket, and then we got the freedom to go wherever we want to after we finish CDL school. And I believe that most people that come into trucking would prefer to do it that way. Nobody likes having to sign a contract. But you are right, Jesse. There is this big popular, what I would call, just like you called, a misconception that you have to go that way. Now, here's the thing that I want to address. This is the reason why I wanted to make a public video addressing your comment. I see no shred of evidence that big trucking companies are the ones that's putting out that misinformation. I want to be careful with this because, you know, I don't know all things. And I can't say that I know for sure big trucking companies aren't doing that. But I have seen not one shred of evidence that big trucking companies are deliberately putting out that kind of misinformation to entice people to come to them, to sign a contract with them. Now, we gotta go deeper on that because this is absolutely ultra important for people coming into trucking that's looking here online on platforms like YouTube to get the information as far as coming in trucking and which way they should go. I'm gonna say that it is confused YouTubers I'm going to say that it is confused online content creators that are putting out that misinformation. Now, I haven't seen a shred of evidence that trucking companies are putting out that misinformation. I do have evidence of YouTubers putting out misinformation, not necessarily on that subject, okay? And, I don't want to make it seem like content creators and YouTubers are bad, but I want to talk about something that runs prevalent in anybody that creates, or from anybody that's creating content online, all right? So I want to tell you a little story that illustrates what I'm talking about here, all right? So right now it's May 28th, 2023. And February the 7th, 2022 is when the ELDT mandate was put into place by the feds, by the FMCSA, all right? And here's what I remember. Before February the 7th, 2022, once it became known that, hey, this change is coming up, I saw so many YouTube creators saying, you better hurry up and get your CDL now because the cost is about to go up and the process is about to become more difficult. I saw so many online content creators making videos saying that very thing. Now, behind that, and here's what you got to understand, you people that are looking online to get your information. This is why, in my opinion, this is one of the main reasons why there's so much misinformation out there. Here's the thing. You ready for it? People are starving for clicks. People are, creators, we want views. And so whenever we think that we have a unique spin on something, or whenever we think that we're the only one saying something, we're eager to make a video about it because that's how we get views, by having a unique perspective on things. So if I come to a conclusion as a YouTube creator, and I think that this conclusion that I've come to is something new and different, the typical YouTube creator is eager to make a video about it. And I really don't know, Jesse, how much research your average online creator is actually doing before they create their content. I can only speak for me. I see myself as a YouTuber / kind of a journalist. And a good journalist is supposed to research what he's saying in an effort to not put out misinformation. And I'll be honest with you, Jesse. And again, we're just talking about this subject of ELDT, but it's very relatable to, you're talking about a different subject, but at the core, it's the same exact thing. I was actually disturbed as a YouTuber by how many YouTubers started saying that. Hurry up and get your CDL before February the 7th because it's going to get more expensive. I mean, people were literally guaranteeing that it's going to get more expensive with no evidence that it was going to get more expensive. So the take that I took on that, Jesse, me personally, I can only speak for me. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else. I'm just saying this is how I saw that. I started seeing all the content that was being put out on YouTube about hurry up and get your CDL. The cost is going to go up. It's going to get more expensive. So in an effort to, create unique content, I did some research on that subject. And I feel the video is still there on my channel. I feel that I was one of the only channels that was telling the YouTube community, you don't need to worry about that. It's not going to get more expensive. And the ELDT mandate is not going to make it harder to get a CDL. Now, I think I'm totally qualified to talk about this because right now, Jesse, I personally am on the precipice of opening up my own CDL school. I'm actually right now in the middle of making the transition from truck driver to CDL school owner. So obviously, I've been researching CDL schools. And I haven't come across a school yet. I've been pricing CDL schools in my area. And that's like close to me, but also, you know, a little bit further out. I've been pricing the cost of CDL schools all across the country, but I've definitely been pricing or monitoring the cost of CDL school because I have to do that so I can have my pricing for my CDL school in line with what's out in the market. Right now, as we speak, Jesse, the cost of going to CDL school is, I've heard schools in my area be as high as $6 grand, and I've heard as low as $2,500. When I got my CDL, Jesse, 7 years ago, the cost of going to CDL school that I paid out of pocket was $5,500. So I've arrived at the conclusion that the cost of CDL school did not go up. And again, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I do watch a lot of these, you know, YouTubers videos in an effort to keep my own perspective unique. I feel like I was the only one that was right. I'm sure I'm not, but I don't recall seeing any videos of people that was saying what I was saying at that time, which was, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to make it more difficult to get your CDL, and it's not going to cause the cost of getting your CDL to go up. I was actually surprised as I'm doing research on the cost of CDL school now to make sure my pricing for my school is in alignment with what's, you know, it's in alignment with what the market is offering right now. I was surprised that the same cost that I paid is the same figures that I'm hearing right now. I was really surprised. You know, everything goes up. You think over time, the cost of fuel and food and insurance and utilities and gas and electricity, everything done went up. I have not one shred of evidence that the cost of CDL school has gone up as a result of the ELDT mandate in February the 7th. So many online creators was creating content and they were pushing that narrative. Hurry up and get your CDL. It's going to get more difficult. It's going to get more expensive. And I mean, again, I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for me. I know what research I did. I don't know what kind of research these people did. So when we're talking about that subject, that misinformation was not put out by quote unquote the man, the big trucking companies, the government, the FMCSA. They didn't have nothing to do with pushing that narrative. That was confused and view-hungry YouTubers that put that narrative out. And I'm asserting right now, Jesse, that on the subject that you just asked about, it's the same thing. Now, again, I'll admit, I don't know everything, but as a part journalist, I haven't seen any evidence that trucking companies are putting out content or trying to scare newbies away from paying for their own tuition. I haven't seen any evidence. I don't want to say for sure that they're not doing it because I don't communicate with them. But as part journalist, I ain't seen it. I haven't seen any evidence to support that. Okay. But I have seen evidence to support that YouTubers that are desperate for views are responsible for putting so much misinformation out. And, you know, like, we should be researching the topics that we share, just like any journalist would, in an effort to maintain integrity and not be putting out false, misleading information. As a YouTuber, you're not obligated to research the stuff that you say, okay? So my personal opinion on it is us as, you know, online content creators and quote unquote veteran truck drivers that are supposed to care about the well-being of the people, the newbies that are coming into the industry. I just feel like we got to do a better job of researching the stuff that we're talking about before we put it out. And if we don't know, then we gotta be careful. We gotta make sure we put that out in our videos. If we're gonna make an assertion and you ain't got the receipts, you don't have the invoice, you need to make sure as a YouTuber that you're letting your viewers know, I'm not sure about this. If it's so much misinformation online, we as the YouTubers, we as quote unquote veteran truckers that are supposed to care about the people that are coming behind us, we gotta do a better job of researching the stuff that we're talking about, right? So here's what I always tell people. as far as, whether you're an individual that should consider locking in with the company and for a year or whatever, or just paying for your CDL training out of pocket so that you'll have the freedom to go wherever you want to after you get out of CDL school. Here's what I tell people, and you can do with this what you want. If you are an individual like myself, and like all of the people that I said earlier that I know in trucking, we all do the same things, the ones that I know personally. Ain't nobody going to sign no contract. But everybody that I know, the common denominator is we pretty much already got the job thing locked down. In other words, we already know exactly what and let me put it this way. There's a viable path already laid out for us for employment after we get our CDL. But if you're on the other side of the fence, Jesse, and you're the type of individual that, you don't know what you're going to do after CDL school. You have no clue where you're going to go after CDL school. And you know this before you go to CDL school. You know you don't have a father that's in trucking like I do, or brothers and cousins that's in trucking like I do. And like everybody else that I know, like that's what it is with everybody that I know. If you're on the other side of that and you don't have access to those resources, which will let you know for sure before you go to CDL school. Well, yeah, after I go to CDL school, this is where I'm going, no doubt. If you don't know that, if you have no clue how to get a trucking job, and you have no clue where you want to go, and you don't have much of a runway, some people can't afford to get out of CDL school and mess around and can't find a job. Okay. So if you know your circumstances, and you know that because you don't have a network, or you don't know what you're doing, or you're the only one in your circle that's in trucking, and you don't have anybody around you that you can talk to, and you can't afford to get in a situation where you got your CDL and now, for whatever reason, you can't find a job. If you want to ensure that you don't have to deal with that, and you know that your circumstances are such that that may be an issue, I would suggest that you seriously consider locking in with a company, because then you don't even have to worry about it. All right. So like, to take time to get your CDL and then can't get a job, it doesn't help you any. All right. But like I said, if you're in the category of people that because of your own circumstances, you know that it's a possibility you might fall into that category, you should strongly consider just go into a company that's where all of that's gonna be taken care of for you, and you don't even have to worry about it. Some people have a longer runway, and by a runway, what I mean is, you got your money straight, you're good, you can afford. It's not the end of the world if you come out of CDL school and for whatever reason you can't find a job, man. But if you're like most of us, like when we get our CDL, we need to be working right now. We need to be working yesterday. We got bills that was due, 3 weeks ago. If you know that's you and you can't afford that, you probably fit into the category of somebody that should consider locking in with a company. Hope that helped you out, Jesse, and I appreciate the comment.